Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, you're going to learn how to play a rock blues lead over a very basic jam track. It's got 3 chords, basic chords that just repeat themselves over and over and over again with a very prominent piano part. And it's going to be your job to complement that piano part, not get too in the way, but do something creative on top of that. So we're going to break all of that down over the course of 2 videos. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and download the tablature and the MP3 jam track, which I have in multiple tempos, you can get all of that by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP276. Alright, so let's start off by just talking about the chord structure of this song. There's 3 chords that you're going to hear the piano player playing in the jam track. It's a C, an F, and a G chord. And it's played roughly like this. You have the C, F, G, and then it goes back to the C and it just keeps looping through those same 3 chords. Now, the piano plays it a little different than that, but that's the basic cadence of what's going on. When the piano comes in, it comes in right on the 1. So when you're listening to the jam track, you're going to hear 4 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's where the piano comes in, right there on that 1. That's not where the guitar comes in. So when you're playing along with a jam track, don't come in on the 1, come in on the 2. And I did that intentionally. I wanted to let there be a little bit of a basis set up, or bass line rather, so that you hear something and then you start playing on top of it. It's a little bit like a call and response. It sounded too muddy when I tried to play right on the 1 with the piano. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Obviously, if you were improvising with a band, you could do this anyway, but I thought it was more relaxed sounding to let the piano start and then come in. So you're going to come in like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And that's the first lick we're going to learn. This is an awesome lick. It's easy to play and it's incredibly useful. So let me show you how to do it and then I'll explain it as I'm talking through it. Bar the first 3 strings on the 8th fret, and then but you're only going to play strings 2 and 3. And when you play them, you do a downstroke with the right hand. When you play them, you're going to do a hammer-on with your middle finger to the 9th fret, 3rd string. And what you've really done is you've just built a C chord. If you think of a C chord with a bar chord, the bar being here on the 8th fret, you're just playing the top part of that chord. And then I come up here and bar the first 3 strings on the 10th fret, but we're only going to play strings 2 and 3, and then we're going to go back. So, and that's a technique you hear all the time in rhythm, where you go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord and back to the 1 chord. So you'd have your 1 chord, which is a C, your 4 chord is an F, and then you're back to the 1 chord. So just remember that when you're improvising, whether it be lead playing or playing rhythm, that you can now bounce back and forth between that 1 and 4 chord, just like that. Oh, the last part of that, I hit that twice. That's my ring finger on the 10th fret, 4th string. And again, that's just another note in the chord. So if you visualize that chord shape, it makes it easy to play this in my mind. So use that in other things. If you're playing a blues in G now, and you can change the timing of it, but you hear that in lots of rock and roll songs and blues songs. It's a very useful thing to be able to do. Okay. Now the next thing is this really cool lick that goes. I love that. It's kind of bluesy, kind of funky, and it's easy to play because we're going to be playing right out a minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So those of you that are into that minor pentatonic scale, this will be very easy to at least visualize and understand where we're at. If you don't know what I mean when I say minor pentatonic scale pattern 1, I go through all 5 patterns in the blues lead course that you would have access to as a premium member. But here's how we're going to play it. We're going to be staying in the key of the song. So the song is in the key of C, and even though there's an F and a G chord, we're not thinking that way. We're just staying in the key of the song. So that's how I'm thinking it through this whole solo here. So it's a down up. That's going to be the 10th fret, 4th string with the left hand. And a lot of this is going to be repeat to what we've already learned, but we're going to bar the first 3 strings here on the 8th fret again. We're going to play the 3rd string, hammer onto the 9th fret, and then an upstroke on the 8th fret, 2nd string, which is behind the bar there. Ring finger goes down on the 10th fret, 3rd string. There's that same little hammer on again. So we have kind of a loop that we've created. And then when you come back to the 10th fret, 4th string, you go. And what I'm doing here is I'm playing between the 10th fret and the 8th fret on the 4th string, and then we're going to drop down to the 5th string. But as soon as I come to that note, I slide down from the 10th fret 5th string down to the 8th fret. So, and then I come down to the 6th fret 5th string and do a hammer on to the 7th fret 5th string. And what we've done here is we've dropped into this little extension, and I cover that in pattern 1 of that blues lead course, that you've got your pattern 1 up here, but you've also got this little extension part. That's how I think of it. I've always thought of it that way. So backing up, and remember, you come in on the 2, you play like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Really cool. Now you can repeat that even if you learn nothing else in this entire lesson. That is an incredibly useful set of notes to be able to play and add to your repertoire, add to your vocabulary. The second time through, I played that same rhythm part, and then I came down and played a different response. So think of that as a call, and then the response was different. Now what I did here was, you can tell it sounds different, and that's because I switched from the minor pentatonic scale down to the major pentatonic scale. So now what we're doing is we're playing in major pentatonic scale pattern 1 for the key of C. So we're still in the same key, we're just switched from minor to major. And major pentatonic scale is everything that you've got in your minor pentatonic scales, and that could be any of the 5 patterns. You just go this direction towards the head of the guitar, 3 frets. So if that's your minor, you've got 1, 2, 3. That's your major pentatonic scale. It's that easy to go from minor to major. So that's what I'm doing when I come down to this position. And this happens between the 5th fret and the 7th fret. It starts on the 4th string. I do a slide from the 5 to the 7. And then I go back to the 5th fret, 3rd string, 7th fret. And then a bend on the 7th fret. It's a full bend on the 7th fret, 3rd string. And then that's 7, 5 on the 3rd string, 7 on the 4th string. And then that's just a hammer on between the 5th fret and the 7th fret on the 3rd string. Back to the 5th fret, 3rd string. Now don't just memorize these notes. You won't be doing yourself a favor if you do that. You have to understand major pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, and your ear will start to know when to use which one. And there is no right answer, by the way. I could have stayed in the minor pentatonic scale the entire time, or the major pentatonic scale. But I'm a big fan of blending the two. I've actually got a lesson, which is EP276, one I did a while ago, but it's a whole lesson on mixing the major and minor pentatonic scale, and some of the areas where those two scales naturally overlap. And we're actually in one here when we started that. That's part of that lesson. Okay, let's take it back from the beginning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now the third time through, I could have went right back into that, but instead I switched it up and went. Just wanted to give you another variation. And so what we're doing here is we're playing a C6 chord and a C9 chord, and then sliding back to the C6. So C6, C9, C6. Just to show you that you can play other chords there. You don't have to just play scales. Sometimes it's cool just to throw in some chords into your lead playing. And that's a great one to use, this C6 to C9, because it's slidable. You can go back and forth. And I've covered this in lots of lessons, so some of you are probably like, okay, we've seen this before. But here's how you play this chord. Again, connect it back to your C chord shape here. But if you visualize this chord shape, where you've got your bar, that's where your index finger is going to go. And then these 3 fingers make up the D7 chord shape. That's how I like to think of it. If you think about making a D7 down in first position, you take that same shape and you slide it all the way up here so that your pinky is on the 10th fret 2nd string. And then you put your index finger there and you have this C6 chord. Now what's cool about that is I can keep that same shape, slide it down 2 frets, and now it's a C9. And then you go back. So that's how I played it. I went. Now test yourself to make sure you understand that 6 to 9 chord thing. So try it by playing an A6 and an A9 chord. And you should be able to do that. I'm going to pause the video if you want to try it yourself. But what you do is if you look at your C chord using this chord shape, you would slide it down. This would be the E chord shape out of Caged for a reference. But there's how you play it over an A chord. So there's your A6 to A9. You can see how your index finger is on the same fret that the bar is on and so forth. Okay, all right, so let's back up and play from the beginning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then there's this really cool lick that goes. So we're going to start with that. Sounds really complicated and difficult, but it's super easy to play. I promise you, it's not hard. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting in major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. That's that 5th fret 1st string, so think about that as kind of where we're going. Actually, but we start on the 6th fret 1st string. We start on this note, which is a half step up from that. Now this is, without getting too lost in theory, I don't want to bog us down here, but what we're doing is we're blending the minor and the major pentatonic scale. So this note is major pentatonic, this note is in the minor pentatonic scale. That would be minor pentatonic scale pattern 5 if you're keeping score. But we're going to start with that note, 6th fret 1st string, and then we're going to go back to the 5th fret 1st string, and do a hammer-on pull-off between the 6th fret and the 5th fret. And then another hammer-on with my ring finger to the 8th fret 2nd string. Like that. Now just remember that, so that is in the major pentatonic scale pattern 1. Right? So to make this a useful lick that you can use going forward, just remember you've got your major pentatonic scale, but you've got this one note here, which is in the minor, and you can kind of go back and forth between those two in that one spot, and it sounds really cool. So after that, I'm going to do an upstroke on the 5th fret 1st string. So all together then we have, and then I take my ring finger back to the 8th fret 2nd string, and I slide up to this note, which would be the 10th fret 2nd string. That's the same note as this note, we're just sliding up to here. So we have back to the 8th fret 2nd string, and now look at where we're at. Now we're in minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. So really what I've done is I've switched from major pentatonic scale pattern 1 and slid up to minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. Once I get to here, I'm thinking more minor pentatonic stuff. And that's all I'm doing, is I'm just trying to get from one to the other. Okay, and then we got, once we're here at that 8th fret 2nd string, my ring finger goes down on the 10th fret 3rd string, back to the 8th fret 2nd string, and then I play the 8th fret 3rd string. That's probably the hardest part in the whole thing, is going from that 8th fret 2nd string to the 8th fret 3rd string, just because they're both on top of each other. And actually when I hit that, I put that in the tab, that there's a little slight bend there, just to give it kind of a little bit more of a bluesy twang. So we have, you can see once I come to this, I go ahead and bar there on the 8th fret. That's probably an easier way of thinking about that, or an easier way of doing it. Just go ahead and bar once you get to that 8th fret and play it that way. So that's the lick. So don't let that intimidate you, just play it over and over again. But play it in context, and that's why I provide these jam tracks, so that you can, even if you wanted to take just that one lick there and just play it over and over again with the jam track, it'll totally work, and it'll start to sink in your mind and help you understand that in context with something, so that if you wanted to play it in something else, you could do it. Okay, from the beginning, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now the last part of this goes. So this is a great lick that you hear in blues all the time. I think of like Further On Up the Road, you know, I think it starts that way. But what I'm doing is I'm borrowing the first 3 strings on the 8th fret, and I'm going to play the 3rd string, do a hammer onto the 9th fret, 8th fret 2nd string behind the bar there. Then my ring finger goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string, and that is in the major pentatonic scale. So for all you that are thinking minor pentatonic scale, this is that sweet spot that I cover in that EP130, that lesson number, where the 2 blend. And then I come up to the 8th fret 1st string. Okay, now once I get to that note, then I played, and I did that 4 times, this lick. This is a great lick that is like kind of a Freddie King style lick. And what I'm doing is I'm holding my index finger down on the 8th fret 1st string. My ring finger is coming up to the 11th fret 1st string. And it's doing a slight bend each time. And then my middle finger goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string. So those are the 3 notes. And the way that I'm playing that with the right hand goes like this. Down, up, down, down, up, down. So there's 2 downstrokes with the right hand. Down, up, down, down. And those 2 upstrokes flow together nicely, which makes it pretty easy to play. So it goes. And just practice that over and over again. You can do that on acoustic or electric guitar. It works either way. Okay. There's a little bit of a stagger there when you're playing those. Now, the first 3 of them are played exactly the same. So you got 1, 2, 3. The last one, the 4th one, goes quicker. It just happens quicker, and you'll see that in the tab. That's so that you can get to this next part. And what I'm doing for that, and I don't know where I got this. I want to say it was B.B. King, but I don't think it's him. Or it's a variation of something I've heard him do. And I'm playing this in pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale. That's what I'm thinking about, or what I'm visualizing. But when I go like this, by adding that note, which would be the 12th fret 1st string, that's actually in the major scale, major pentatonic scale. So we're going back and forth between those 2 scales just in that one instance over and over again. And it creates a really cool effect to your ear. And that's all that's happening there. So just remember that. Here will be your takeaway. When you're playing pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, you've got these 2 notes, but you've got the one in between there, which would be in your major scale, major pentatonic scale. So you can always use that note. It's the same note, by the way, as the one down here that we've been hammering on. It's just an octave higher. So 13th fret to the 12th fret on the 1st string. I think I did 4 of them. You'll have to count them out in the tab. Then I slide all the way up to the 15th fret 1st string. And then I go back to that pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, which would be the 11th fret 1st string. Hammer on to that 12th fret. So we have, that's just down, up with the right hand. So now we're going to drop down to the 2nd string and play the 13th fret and the 11th fret. So backing up and putting it in context, we have and then watch this. That's the last part of this first half. And what I've done there is I've just slid into pattern 4 of the major pentatonic scale for C. And to do that, we're going to start here on the 12th fret 3rd string. We're going to slide up to the 14th fret on that same string. Then 13th fret 2nd string. Back to the 14th fret 3rd string. So you have, and then watch this. That's the 15th fret 2nd string. We're going to do a bend. And then we're going to play the 15th fret 2nd string without the bend. Back to the 13th fret. Back to the 14th fret 3rd string. So we have, let me do that slowly. And that last note there is the 13th fret 2nd string. And that's actually where we're going to end this part 1 video. It's a lot of information, but I want you, when I mentioned that but that's the pattern 4 of the major pentatonic scale. Let that sink in, that you have this connection now. You've got pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, real nice bluesy stuff. But then you can take this bottom part, I think of that as like the bottom part of pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, and just slide that up 2 frets, and now you're in pattern 4, the major pentatonic scale. Listen to this. Hear how it goes from bluesy to more of a happy sound? But they're like next door neighbors. They're right there and they're just connected right here. So I use that all the time if I'm trying to get from one to the other. I just know that there's this little bridge to get me from that minor pentatonic bluesy sound into more of a major happy sound, more of a B.B. King style. It's more of B.B.'s area. Hopefully that makes sense and I didn't confuse you with it. So you might have to rewind that if it's confusing, or you can feel free to leave me a comment and I'll try and answer it that way. All right, so that ends what we're going to learn in this first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, remember, check out Premium Membership. It's incredibly affordable. I put out high-quality lessons like this every week, and you get all the learning materials that go with it, the tablature and jam tracks and all that stuff, so you can practice putting everything that you're learning here. It makes it a lot more effective. All right, so here we go from the beginning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.